What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Metal Maniacs Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ingersoll, and I'm here with my co-host.
It's your boy, Mod.
And today we have another very special guest. All of our guests are very special that come to choose to spend time with us. So,
Agreed.
Chantal Roeske, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good.
It was a relaxing morning.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Those are valuable when you're a parent.
So
Amen.
we do have some stuff to go over today. Chantal is putting on this awesome fest. Heart on Your Sleeve Fest, it's called, right?
Yes.
So we're going to focus on that. She plays in the band Tongue Cutter, and Chantal and I actually have quite a bit of history together, which is even more than when I go back to think about it. So remember the band STD, right?
Yes. How could I forget?
Yeah. So
I just found some tapes of a practice.
Videotapes?
Cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
so I remember, I must have been 17, 18, something like that. And we
Younger.
played at this party like out in Fruitport Spring Lake area in that dude's garage. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah, Van
like-
Wagner.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
That band was
I got
5
pulled
cents.
over on the way home from that
Yeah.
show. Yes. I
Oh,
remember.
so that band was 5 cents
Yeah.
when we were jamming with the Brett and Adam and
Yeah.
Rolland, right?
Yep.
Whoa.
And you
oh
guys
my
played there.
gosh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, that is crazy. I'm remembering that now. That I have not even pulled up that memory in so long. 'Cause I specifically do remember that show. But yes.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
had some heavy
gosh.
tunes then.
That's why I said we go back even further, because I remember STD at the Pulse nightclub, too.
Was it STD
Yep.
or was it Critical Mass?
Oh, could have been Critical Mass.
It was
Okay,
Critical Mass.
okay.
But I'll tell you
But-
the only reason why I remember that detail was because I was there though. I saw you guys.
Mm.
But I knew at the time that was Carmen's band that played, but we turned into
Okay,
Slight Tempo Drop
okay,
/
okay.
STD after
You
that.
weren't playing there, though, that day?
No, because eventually they needed a bassist, so they brought me on bass. And then after a while, Carmen was like, "You should be writing the riffs," and I was like, "Okay." And it's funny because I've given that band a lot of hell, like over the years. Like, we went through different phases, and it was like too new for me. Like right after, I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh, I
Yeah.
don't know about that. And so it was like, oh, we need to do this like more straight hardcore thing. But when I found those cassette tapes, I was listening to it in the basement. And it was funny because Ben came downstairs. He's like, "What you listening to?" I'm like, "Some old SD." He's like, and I'm like, "I know it kind of rips, right?" I was like, "There's so much more space for me now,
It goes in hard. Yeah, I remember the first time, seeing you guys. Well, actually, not the first time, but I do have a memory of us all jamming out in the woods somewhere.
Was that...
I have
Pines Point?
I guess.
Did
like
you play
and-
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Okay.
Slight Tempo Drop. Dan
Okay,
Wheaton's
yeah.
band.
Odyssey.
Oddity.
Odyssey.
They played, right? Is that show?
Don't crucify.
Yeah, they played. Because in Rapture played, too. Adam
Same feel.
Eklund, the drummer that I jam with now, their
Okay.
band played in Rapture.
Yeah. So
Oh,
we were
man.
all running around back in the
Yeah.
day. We have little recollection of, these
I remember the
memories.
bonfire that night at Pines Point, though.
I was out there really late into
Sweet.
the night. I don't know how late I was there till
Dude, it sounded good
12.
too. Like the sound and everything,
Yeah.
the little
Yeah.
like generator, the PA,
Yeah.
and like
yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Absolutely.
cool time. I remember there was a little bit of drama with, like, Rolland lost his double kick pedal, and there was this thing with Adam and Dan, and it was just one of those things where you're young and don't really understand how things work. But anyway,
How to talk
just-
to people.
I just wanted to put that out there because we played in Indrid together,
Yes.
right? So,
good
funny
times.
story, Luke was on the podcast as a guest host last week. His episode will come out after this, obviously, but we kind of talked to him a little
Awesome.
bit about that and how he got involved, because your old singer's name was Jeremy, right?
Yeah, he was Muskegon too. I honestly really lost touch with him. No idea how he's doing if he's out there. How you doing, Jeremy? But yeah, then we had and I think trying to remember. So that whole period of time, I was playing bass. I guess once I switched over to guitar, we kind of started to like morph into Indrid,
Okay.
and that was when we put the call out for a singer. And we had some interesting, episodes with trying people out on both guitar and bass before we made the switch. But yeah, I remember, I think it was, was it a Craigslist ad that Luke responded to or something?
What you doing on Craigslist,
No.
Luke?
Wait, was it? I'm like, wait, no. I was like, was Craigslist even a thing back then? Maybe not. It was some public thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you remember how the forums
Well,
used to be like fairly active.
Yeah.
musicians back
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm like, what was the time frame? I can't remember.
So
05,
we talked to him a
06.
little bit about that because it was funny.
Early.
No,
Obviously,
it was
he was like a DJ in our band, so you guys knew him through that or whatever. And I don't know what he was doing a little bit of vocals on some like guest songs for us. So that must have gave him the confidence to say, hey, I want to go do something to the next level. And then
Right.
he went and joined Indrid. And then somehow along the way, I came in the band.
Right. It was awesome having 2 guitars for a while too,
Yeah.
because it was like, it's always so fun to like explore like, extra layers that way and
Oh, yeah.
melodies, and those were good times. And oh my gosh, we never would have had the video documentation. I had like the most amazing like emo experience going back over that, and just like, because nobody ever really, spent a lot of time capturing us at all. There was nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know those existed.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Well, even with that, I mean, so your basement was kind of infamous because you really kind of, I mean, Dies was on the show and we talked a lot about that, or at least a little bit about that, as far as, that's how they cut their teeth, and look at where they're at now, them guys being in the basement.
Yeah.
Right.
That was awesome.
And-
Actually, I was watching the podcast when those guys were talking about that, and I was like, that was a warm, fuzzy moment for me for sure.
Yeah.
Those guys, we've always been very tight bros, and they definitely embody like the spirit of the basement throwdown, no doubt. We had so many great shows too. I was just saying the other day, all the shows we had, how packed our house always was. Rafters just shaking, little makeshift bar in the basement, everybody up close, stinky, sweaty. I love those times. Nobody ever like mistreated us or disrespected our home in those years. Like, as I recall, I don't believe we ever had anything stolen. I mean, sometimes I had to like, break down the bathroom door because there was like 5 scene girls in there, like for like 25 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
I'm like, get out. No offense to the ladies, but but I mean, seriously, everybody just like respected our home. Like,
It takes
it's a good time.
It just takes a massive amount of vulnerability and stones to just say, open up the home to the GP. Everybody's invited. Come on in. We're doing a basement show. Like, that's huge. So that kind of goes to what we're going to speak about in a few minutes here, with what you're doing coming up in February. But you've always been there like a cornerstone in the scene, Chantal. So thank you for opening your home to us.
Gosh, well, that means so much to me. I mean, I felt like that when we played at the credit union last night, because we were just talking about that show, Little Punk Club, where somebody's like living there and they're like, hey, like you said, vulnerability. I'm going to open up my doors. I'm going to do this for the scene.
Right.
I'm glad I had the period of time in my life to do that where I didn't have like young children and all this career stuff happening, because otherwise it never would have come to fruition.
Right,
yeah.
It's hard to balance. So I get why some people can't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we were able to at the time.
Yeah. And so many memories for so many people too. And it's, not just you that has these awesome memories of hosting parties, but there's just so many of us out there that are like, yep, never forgetting that show, or those shows, that summer run, and there were several summers, I'm sure, right? Like, this wasn't just like 1 year that we had.
And there was winter shows too. I remember going out in
Yeah.
the van, getting all fucked up, like just
We had
hanging
some really
out.
great touring bands. We
Yeah.
had some great out-of-state bands.
Oh yeah, some awesome bands, and some of my favorite times are going upstairs, like hanging out with you and whoever just upstairs while like the bands are playing and shit. That was some of my favorite times, just hanging out with everybody, and so that, and just getting to know like those bands from across the state, and obviously getting to know Dies, because those guys are some of my really good friends, to this day too. So it was just it really did a lot for the scene and to keep like the Muskegon scene alive, especially like, because the bars and shit, like, you're not going to be able to play at the Blue Note, especially at that time. Like, there wasn't even really much of that going on there. Like, here and there you could do it, but
it's timely that you guys had Fortin on last week, actually, because I think between us, like, we were doing the basement venue thing. It was what was easy to us. We knew how to do, very grassroots. Luke was putting in a lot of effort, booking hall shows.
Huge.
I mean, he was doing a ton for the scene.
Another cornerstone.
Right.
Yep.
And so between all of us putting in these little chips, we had an amazing thing going in that era.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, those were good times. And I know everybody
Absolutely.
says that, but I mean, it was a high point for our local music.
Yeah, no, I miss those times, and I'd like to see them come back around in some form or fashion. So,
don't you feel like it's kind of ramping up to be there?
Oh,
I
yes.
feel that
Yeah.
coming
Yes.
right now.
yeah, we
100%.
talked about that, with Dies coming back.
Yeah.
I'm not only with this podcast, but just on a personal level with the band that I'm playing in and the music that we're creating right now. Like, I'm more enthused than ever. And I heard Jeremy McCleary from Pain Divine, he was on the show like a couple times now, and he's the homie, but he was talking about how he's so like,
he's charged
he's
up.
so enthused about it right now too, like
Love
in
it.
his band, and that like inspired me to be like, like, fuck, man, it's like, maybe we'll never get rich. Maybe we'll never be on tour because I don't really want to go on tour and pay all those dues. But at the same time, it's like, man, I love this music shit. I love meeting all these people. Like, think about, I mean, we haven't spoken a long time, but now here we are and we're talking about this fest and we're talking about all this stuff. So it's like, it's kind of picking up right back where we left off. Same with Dice.
Everybody in our generation of music too, they are all picking back up the torch and doing something new or...
So I'm meeting all kinds of bands just on this show. You're meeting them playing and on this show. I think you're right. There is a huge resurgence of like organic music coming back. People playing instruments in bands. Like for a hot minute there, for far too long, it felt like, where are the bands? Where are the musicians? Where's the live music?
100.
And I was like, oh well, it's dead. Like, oh well, it's dead. There's no more live music. We're just moving on to EDM and other things, whatever. But
it did feel dystopian for a minute there.
It was really macabre and morose there, but it is coming back, and I'm so grateful for that.
A few things to attest to that is COVID was like, I think a lot of, and I'm not one of those people to blame everything on COVID because that's something a lot of people as a crutch, but like, I think a lot of people realize that like, oh, what if I can't do this at all? Well, maybe I might as well fucking go for it after now that we can play again. Let's get out there and get back playing again and everything, right? Yeah. I think it's some of that, and then like just with the internet and promotion, there's so many bands now, and it's so easy to get your music out there. It's a bad thing in one aspect because the thing, the scene and metal music can just get saturated. Yeah. But I think the good shit will rise to the top, and I think if you don't focus on like the scarcity of it, you can move that however. You can be aggressive with it. Yeah. But
manhandle that. But yes.
It's not the scarcity of it. It's like there's enough for everybody. It's like, build your tribe and jam with who you want to jam with. And you know what I mean? Because that means the world to me. Just all these people around here and the bands that I've met through this podcast and the bands that I jam with. It's like, that's my world. I don't need more out of that, So it's there's a lot to it, I think.
Theory on that too, beyond the COVID. I will say, like, getting back into like a heavy / like into the grassroots, the punk scenes, whatever that it is, like with Tongue Cutter, I noticed, for a long time, generationally speaking, I think people like my teen, they're like streaming stuff while they're gaming. They're just not digesting music the same way we used to. No judgment on that, by the way.
Sure.
I'm just noticing the trends. They're not going to see live music. They're not really into performing. Suddenly, though, there was this like change, I feel like, in the last 2 or 3 years. I'm sure it's probably older than that, but maybe in our neck of the woods, not so much. And when we played our first show, there was this young band called Violet Scum from the Spring Lake area. This young like punk band. And they're like 16, 17, really doing cool stuff. Like I was very proud of them. I was like, oh my God. Then I went over to their merch table and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a lino print? Like and they've got all their little zines and just their credo and like who they were and everything. I was like, it's happening again. It's happening again. Yeah. And I was so proud of them. They're like completely embodying the spirit.
Yes.
And, we were chatting about music. They're listening to awesome stuff. They like covered a Stooges song and I'm just like, oh, I love what you guys are doing. And they're like starting to pave the way again too. So like I see new blood coming in.
Yeah.
I see people in our generation doing new things and like, you could just feel like something cool is about to happen,
Yeah. It feels like there's a little bubble.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your history and your personal history. Why don't you just tell us like kind of how you got into, playing your instrument, playing instruments, and then how it evolved into like, I mean, you're on the Metal Maniacs podcast for a reason, right? So I know we played some heavy shit. Yeah. And I've listened to some of your Tongue Cutter stuff, but I believe after watching that video last night, your little clip of your show from yesterday, I listened to some of the stuff, but I feel like probably your newer stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, is like even heavier than that stuff that you guys already put out, or
that was actually a song from the first EP.
Oh, okay.
Yep, but trust me, I understand. I think what happens when you listen to it on the front end is like you get kind of like listening to vocals and melodies, or maybe it always feels like heavier in person, or at least I hope. That's what I want.
Yes.
But we're definitely staying in that vein. We're trying to be heavy, and it's not as technical as like Indrid was. I leave a little bit of space there for vocals, but yeah, still doing that thing. I mean, going far back, just like super briefly, my parents were musicians, so I grew up in the interest and trauma of all that. So that was a wild upbringing, but it was like instant, immersive exposure to music. My dad was a guitarist and singer, is a guitarist and singer, but he doesn't really play a whole lot anymore. But my mom is, really a master like pianist. She was almost a maestro actually,
Oh, no
and a
shit.
beautiful singer herself.
Nice.
They were.
That's where you get it then, huh?
Well, thank you.
La, 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 la,
I mean,
la.
the truth is, my dad's a great singer too. Honestly,
Nice.
I think they're both accomplished musicians. We had a lot of drama growing up, and there's no joke about that. But I did get a wonderful start to getting exposed to music, and of course, they were professional musicians, they were cover musicians, touring around playing, and they were trying to write their original stuff too. But they were doing a lot of like rock, and growing up with my dad, it was always like obscure stuff, listening to Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, it was always the strange. And my mom was a little bit, maybe folk rock and things like that. So I did early on start playing flute first. And, my dad gave me my first guitar when I was 13. Didn't want to take any lessons or learn from him. I was very stubborn. Just kind of wanted to teach myself. And so, as you can imagine, it was straight into punk bands for a long time after that. Because that was the vibe. It was like rebel. Very like Riot Girl inspired stuff. So that was actually the first band I ever had with Carmen was the Hombres. We were like this thrash punk band who was
Okay.
the drummer of Indrid.
Oh, yeah.
So we did that for a while. And then, kind of like metal/punk thrash bands. There was a band in between that the Hombres that we played for a while that was called Neo Meth Pimp. Then we went to Slight Tempo Drop and played in some other bands. And kind of progressively started making our way to sort of like that hardcore, post-hardcore space of Indrid.
Okay.
And the whole time I was always interested in heavy guitar. I just was pissed, like on an internal level and an external one. So you guys know that I play a lot of other stuff, some jazzy things and stuff. But there's something about the catharsis of like throwing down and heavy music that I can't access anywhere else. I don't know if you guys are like that, but I can't tap into that anywhere else.
Yeah, I go through phases myself where it's like I hear some cool stuff like we'll bring the name up again, like Sleep Token or something like that, and you're like, it just gives you this feeling that you can't get anywhere else. But the heavy, you can't like you can sit in your room and riff and play with the drum machine, that's cool, but when you're on stage, that's the only place you're going to get that.
Yeah.
The only place you're going to feel that energy. Even at practice, you get a little bit of it, but you're not throwing down at practice.
I do.
Yeah.
But
I do too. I legit do.
Wait, weren't we in a
I
band
sweat
together?
at
No, I do.
practice.
No,
The
yeah,
guys are always
I
like,
do.
they'll
I
be
do.
like listening to stuff, and I'm over in the corner just like windmilling.
I do. I mean, it's practice and or rehearsal. I practice at home. I kind of rehearse with the band. And so if I'm in the room with y'all, I expect you to kind of know your parts. And I want to be on the stage tip. I want to be like, I want to have my feet underneath me moving the way that they ought to move. I kind of want to move with my instrument the way that I only can do when I'm feeling it, So for me, throwing down, you can only get it on stage, though, like you're talking about that adrenaline.
yeah.
If people don't get it, like they're watching, why do you like this music? I'm like, you got to get, if you can't play an instrument, then you need to get right up to the front row and watch these guys or these people, watch them play their instruments. Watch how visceral it is. Watch them just drip sweat all over it. And they might not even move a lot, but they're just there under the lights and just concentrating and playing. And it's there's nothing else like it. And we get to do that till the day we die. It's not like athleticism. It fades. It falls off. You can't play ball anymore. We're gonna play music until we literally like our hands, fold in from arthritis or
Absolutely.
whatever. Like I'm playing for life forever.
When you said that too, you're so right, because it actually doesn't matter how many people are there, because it is the spirit of the show that changes the vibe. Weren't you playing that show that one time at Jukes with us where there was nobody? There was like one dude sitting at a table, and we were like, on the count of 3, let's tear this shit up. Like, I mean, we are just gonna we gave it 150%.
Yes.
And I remember that one dude coming up and being like, that was amazing.
That was wild.
There was nobody else there, but we were just like, it was that, feeling of this is a show, so it's time to go.
Well, we moved all of our equipment out there, so we're not going to like
do it for nothing.
Yeah, we're going to put that energy into the same amount of energy as we did by loading those cabs into the car. So
right.
If you're going to do all that, you better do something when you go out there.
Yeah.
So
grab that aggression that I had from being asked if I was the +1 at the door with my cabs.
Yeah, the +1.
Yeah, you probably
I'm
get
not
all
a
that.
+1.
Yeah. You're like, you someone's girlfriend? No, this is my band, motherfucker.
Oh, it happened so much.
Oh, yeah.
You remember dudes trying to set my shit up for me, man.
Yeah. But So tell us a little bit about Tongue Cutter then. So you didn't play for a while, or at least anything to this caliber, right?
I'm-
Or like
I'm
you know,
Feeling the life happens.
It was,
speech.
no, for real. It was like a decade of building my business. I did a lot of stuff with Dane, did a lot of like hip hop features, did a lot of vocal stuff, which was super fun, a lot of flute stuff, a lot of cameos, got to travel cool places and do cool things. I remember like, you guys know Convotronics?
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna have to say no.
Hip hop group from Grand Rapids, very cool, very like old school. And they did a show at the Pyramid Ski and opened up for Farside. If you guys are familiar with Farside, that was pretty cool. Just like got to do a lot of cool hip hop stuff, so that was awesome. Just like like I said, cameos, singing stuff, playing guitar. Did a bunch of solo stuff. Kept it chill because I had all this other stuff going on. But truly, the whole time, I was like feeling kind of emotional about like heavy music and not carrying that torch for so long, and like getting pregnant and having to, basically stop with Indrid and stuff to become a mom. And like that whole identity shift was extremely difficult. Like once I got back into that and I was like, I am valid. My riffs are valid.
Yes,
Okay,
they are. Yes.
When I got back,
Yes.
like when I got that first mix back from Addison, like straight up, I was in my laundry room, like carrying laundry, like totally like, sock mom with like a sock over my shoulder. And I got my ear pods in and like, I sat the laundry basket there and I straight up cried because I was like, I have missed this. Like,
Beautiful.
I cannot access this anywhere else.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is what makes me feel good. And I knew that for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle to be out. But Tongue Cutter is, definitely the heavy project that I really wanted. I think it's a nice marriage of, melody and heavy stuff. We want to come out and, as I joke around, slap a few titties. But we want to like, make people feel stuff.
Yeah,
but
your
it's
lips to God's ears.
we want to ruffle some feathers and keep it heavy and stuff. But it's been cool to like explore more melody, kind of a shift from Indrid, where it's not as good, it's not as technical on guitar. Leaving myself some space to sing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I may, real quickly, I was going to ask you if you would. 'Cause I'm in part waiting to listen to it as a reaction, but I'll listen to some other stuff along the way as the time permits. But how would you describe the difference between Tongue Cutter and Indrid for me?
So I think that, and maybe people wouldn't agree with this, but I think with Tongue Cutter, like the riffs are a little like doomier and a little more like lower BPM.
Okay.
Some of the references that people have given us have been really encouraging for me, which is like, a lot more of like an aggressive, like lady fronted grunge vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little less complex. It's
Okay.
still got a little mathiness to it though,
Sure.
because it's gonna have a little season on it.
Yeah, I love it.
I love, I love a little surprise too, and I just love time signatures in general.
Mhm.
It's not a like, how sometimes I know there are bands that it's like, we have to do this, we have to change these signatures. It's like, we got to check these boxes.
Right.
I like it when it feels organic,
Mhm. Yeah.
when it
exactly.
comes to time signature
Yeah.
changes. But I know both of you feel that too
Mhm.
from the music that you create. So
Yeah, I mean, we've grown a lot. We say this on every podcast with every guest. It's like less is more sometimes, and
Mhm.
like as you get older, we come from the school of like let's play, kind of probably influenced by Indrid, and then going into Infinite Design, we've always played like the fastest, craziest, heaviest, whatever time signature. It could be some just off the wall shit, but it's just what we feel.
Right.
Nowadays, a lot of the stuff is just, for me personally, it's just like, does it got a good groove? Does it got good parts to it? Does it kick ass? Can you slam to it? Can you slap some titties to it?
exactly.
Like,
For real though, you need
like
that breathing space.
Yeah,
Negative
and you can
space
put
is a
that
thing.
season,
Yeah.
like you said, in it, right? Like
Yeah.
you can get a little
Definitely.
technical here and there or whatever, but it's not the main focus. And even
Right.
with Infinite Design, like we grew out of that. Like, yeah, we're gonna play fast and heavy because that's what we do. Like,
Right.
we are death metal, so you got to keep some of that technicality and shit in there.
And you
but-
guys, so there's
know.
there's a thing too, like especially as a lady in the scene, like there is a status to adhere to there. You know what I mean? Especially when you're coming from heavy music, you're like, well, I can't come in too melodic because I don't want to look like a bitch
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's a pressure there to like bring it.
I get
That
it.
is hard to
Yeah.
balance. I
Right.
agree with you though that we're getting older and wiser about leaving negative space, leaving letting something sit.
Yeah.
And we all had that feeling too, like in the 2000s. when we were listening to Dillinger Escape Plan, we were like, bring that one riff back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. And then they didn't, and you're like, oh, okay, I see how it's going to be. Well, it's just because they're so complex. And I love them, but like, it's cool. It's okay to bring that riff back.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right to bring that riff back and just let it.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah, if it's a cool enough riff, and I've said this before, if it's cool enough riff that you just like it that much, like you gotta bring it back.
Yeah.
Like you got, even if you play it different or whatever, put some different drums under it, like, you know, play it a few different ways. But it's just like it's all about the songwriting for me anymore. Like I got to hear those good songs, and like I can do it. Like I love Dillinger. I just went through their whole catalog, and I just forgot how much I do love Calculating Infinity. Like I'm just like,
It's
what
incredible.
a fucking amazing record. There's just so much music here, and like even with their whole catalog, and it's like this is
It's a beautiful record.
riff soup done well. Like this is the best tasting riff soup, and I don't like soup.
Yeah,
but
they're
like,
high up. They're high respects up. Their marks are high.
But
I
they
agree.
do it right, and they are bands that can do it right, you know. And so it's like I'm not shitting on riff soup. It's just like some bands kind of just overdo it, and it's like, man, just bring that
Frank
part
Zappa.
back. Like,
Frank Zappa even like that is for me like from a non-super heavy spot. There's absolutely artists that do.
Yeah.
You know, one of the bands on the fest actually, THV, is like that. You know, I really enjoy those guys so
They're
much.
fun.
They're super fun and so many great riffs, and they do that. They do it well. They're so
people are going to be
talented.
surprised by them, especially the heavy crowd. They're not going to quite be ready for the amount of fun that THV is going to bring to them because it's going to be heavy and zany.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're just going to be like, oh snap, I'm dancing. What the hell is happening to me?
But
it
also brings a little like, you know, he's got a little stank on it. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this riff's got a little heaviness to it. I like those guys a lot.
Ed's a personal friend of mine, so
he's a cool guy.
I know what he's bringing to the people here.
Absolutely, him and Evan both. You know,
they're both amazing. Musicians, yes,
wonderful musicians. I've done a lot of stuff with Evan over the years, like just projects here and there, and like he was on some of my solo albums, and he's just so talented. But yeah, you know, those guys do that. It's so many changes and stuff, and so I love Matthew's stuff. But you know, kind of circling back to what we were saying about a little bit more elemental and a little bit more pared down. Yes, you know, Tone Cutter is definitely more simple.
You sing on it though too, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
All the vocals? Do you do all the vocals then?
Yes.
So so with you singing too, that you can't just focus on being mathy and riffy.
Yeah.
Like it can be done, but it probably can be done better with a vocalist if you're going to be super technical.
And you got to pick and choose. You know, when you do get to a riff where you're like, all right, I'm going to sing and play this at the same time.
Yep.
But I don't want to do that all the time. There are some parts I feel that I play and sing in Tongue Cutter that are complex enough for it to be challenging. But I don't want to push myself like that all the time. I want some space to like let, you know, my shit feed back and like just give it 100% and be able to focus on singing. So it's nice to do that.
So it's a 3-piece. Is that something is that what you wanted to go with? Just dealing with 2 other people and that's good? Like, because I understand that. Like when we had Addison on, that's why I said I asked him why he was always in a 2-piece.
Yep.
And we kind of laughed because I was like, you just didn't want to deal with 3 other dickheads or what?
Yeah, the more you
and
put
he just
in there,
started
the
laughing
because
he knows. He knows. But so that's just the gold on the 3-piece. But you guys
I
had a
think so.
different reiteration of the band previous. Like, is the
Yes.
first record 2 other people than the people you have, or same bass player, or
no
different
bass
drummer?
player, just me and the first drummer of the
okay,
band.
so it was a
Cy.
2-piece, right?
Yep,
And it was a
2-piece.
female drummer as well.
Yep.
Okay.
So Cy and I started the project out, and that was together for about 4 months. Laid down the EP, and then you know that kind of fell apart a little bit, but we moved on through it. All is well. And you know we really tried to like honor what she and I had wrote in those beginning times, which I think was really solid music that I love. She was also, you know, one of the first people to reach out and be like, "Hey, so those riffs that you know that you've got." Like, do you want to like, and I'm just like, oh, you know, I was waiting for someone to ask me, which is very vain. I understand. Like my husband was always like, if you miss playing heavy stuff, why don't you just like put it out there? And he's like, nobody's asking you because they just think you're busy. But I was like, oh, nobody wants my riffs, you know?
All in your head.
Yeah, all in your head.
Yeah.
So it got back going, you know? And then, yeah, we went for like 4 months and you know, had a change of plans. And then what was crazy was, Cam and Derek, who I'm playing with now, actually were neighbors. Like when he told me his address coming over to jam for the first time, Ben was like, I've heard, he's like, I bet it's the house where I've heard like drums being played. And sure enough, it was. So it was cool because that kind of all seemed to fall into place like very organically. And then boom,
Nice.
we were off to record another EP. We've gotten groovier. We've gotten more complex, really solid. And I'm liking, you know, all the changes and stuff. So
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
your husband works at the same place our good friend Nate and John Roan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking
Yeah.
about that this morning because
Yeah.
we didn't realize that Nate actually played guitar.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was, jogging my memory back, and Ben had thought that he thought he played bass or something
No, he
like
played
that.
drums and
Or
Bury
played
the Silence. He was
drums,
a badass drummer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
He's
he played
such a
guitar.
humble
and
guy. He never
Yeah.
talks about himself,
Yeah. If you talk about fishing all day, but yeah, he was in my wedding and everything. He's one of my really good friends. I love Nate. He's such a cool
Total
dude.
sweetheart. Well,
Yeah.
that's Ben's work husband.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool that they work together because he told me that he's like, this dude, I think his band's called something Teeth, something.
Yeah.
Just started working there. Like he told me.
You
about it. I
mean
was like,
Cadillacs of Noise Rock, them teeth from Muskegon, Michigan?
Nice.
what? Now they were Grand Rapids based for a while. Was that,
no.
or he was always from Muskegon?
Ben actually grew up in the Roger City / Pentwater area.
Oh, okay.
But he moved down to Detroit when he was, doing stuff with Nain Rouge.
Okay, yeah, I thought he was in that,
Hey,
right?
Rouge,
Yeah,
Yep.
There's
Then
a name.
yeah.
Yep, the Nain Rouge. I'm sure you saw them in our basement, right?
Mm.
That's
Or a hall show.
Yeah, or
great
Sweat
band.
Fest. or
I
something
remember
of this
going with
nature.
Luke to see them at the intersection a few times, and the old Skeletones too.
Yep.
So we'd always go out and try to support those bands. Two
Killer
Stars
band.
Burning
Yeah.
Sun, and
Yep.
today,
Yeah, we were just
today I
talking about you.
wait, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, they were definitely, and that was kind of like their bro down band at the time.
Yeah.
It was like Nain Rouge and Today I Wait was
Yeah.
just like Indrid and If He
Love
Dies,
those
He
guys.
Dies.
Yeah.
All good bands, great
Yeah.
bands. So
Yeah.
but they've always been Lakeshore based. They're
Okay.
on the fest as well.
Okay, cool. We'll have to get those guys on the show sometime.
Could be sick.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. They're
I know
hoot, too.
you and I talked about that or whatever, but I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm sure I met him in the basement or something. Like I'm aware of who he is, but I
Yeah.
don't really have any kind of relationship with him at all. Never really met him, and not really even familiar with his band at all. But that's just how it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely have to have him on the show and talk about that. So
yeah.
let's get into. I know you have some notes. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly if there's anything else, but I want to get into the fest now. Let's talk about this fest. Talk about
Absolutely.
what's going on with it. And if there's anything else on your notes, just let me know that we didn't cover or you want to cover. But I know, like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys back on the show. If you guys want to, you can do whatever. We can listen to the new EP here. We can premiere it a day early if that's what you want to do. A lot of
Yeah.
other bands have done that. Or we can
That
just
sounds
listen
awesome.
to it and just talk through it and have your other band members on. So I know we can get a real focused tongue cutter episode in for you guys. But at the same
would be
token, I know this show is going to be about this fest.
Yeah.
So I'm really want to talk about that because we want to help promote it. We will be there. We'll have a little booth there. We're going to have some merch there. We're going to have some giveaways too for us. And we just want to help support the scene in any way we can.
Yes.
So we appreciate you letting us come there and do our thing. We're going to do
That's
some
going to be amazing.
documentation. We're going to do a podcast on the go. So we'll have a little setup, talk to the bands and everything. So we'll put a little something together for it.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that because that's a labor of love and it'll be just an awesome archival thing to do.
Yeah.
So we were all about that.
Yeah.
I was talking to Ben about that too, and he thought that was really sweet. Yeah. I am very excited too, and I'm glad to focus on, that and the bands that are going to play. So for anybody that, hasn't seen it online, it's Saturday, February 10th at Hagar's Hideaway in Muskegon, which I think you guys have been to before,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Cool little venue. It's small. There's only, a capacity of 150, and I think we only have maybe around like 35 tickets left. So it's really close to selling out already. And of course, we're going to give away a couple tickets here that we've saved. Yes. But, we just,
you already know.
You know.
you guys, played amazing hall shows too. We all played Palmer Hall, the Eagles, all these great hall shows. And we just kind of wanted to, the hashtag for our little campaign is, bring back the hall show. We wanted that vibe playing on the floor, being close to each other again. And, I think right now, a lot of the younger generation doesn't have the experience, the business experience to front money. None of us really did back in the day either. So I think that's been accumulating problem combined with all of the fervor and the inspiration to get back out in the scene. There still is a lot of confusion over how do we do this? How much money do you need to do this? What's going on with venues and bars? Do bars want to have show? There's so much confusion over where do we play?
Right.
Are we going to get paid? What's the
Yeah.
scoop? So we were I was just laying in bed thinking about this, and I'm like, I'm throwing a fest. It's been years.
Yeah.
I got the money to front this now. I'm in a different spot in my life. I can make sure that it gets what it needs to. I can pay bands. I can be transparent about the process.
Yeah.
And I've been documenting all this too, in an educational way, because I'm hoping that I can help maybe somebody that doesn't know the ropes as much, like reproduce it. Like, oh, this is what it cost and what we had to do to put this together.
Right.
I could do this.
Right.
I just need like, $600 maybe, or
Yeah.
like, and it sounds like a lot to like a younger, somebody who doesn't have a whole lot. But in any case, just wanted to put something together that was really accessible, very like grassroots vibes.
Mhm.
So we've got 10 bands. And I had some notes here. I don't know if it's okay. Can I
We
go
have
through?
as much time as you have, so
Sweet.
We're here for you.
Yep, we are here for you.
Well, I'll be succinct. I wrote some things down because I just
Sure.
wanted to remember
Yes.
like my little details. 'Cause
Perfect.
There's some new stuff in here for me and some that I know a little bit better.
Okay, cool.
But we're kicking off the fest with Source of Light and Power. So that is Muskegon / Bay City. Are you guys familiar with Black Circle Radio, Mitch Anderson?
No.
So he does a local radio station that's like all vinyl here in Muskegon. He's had
Okay.
it for quite a few years.
Okay.
And Jordan Prees from Beast in the Field, I think you may
Yeah, I
be
know
familiar.
them. Yep.
So those guys do kind of an instrumental thing. It's kind of like ambient, experimental, indie thing. And Mitch is also running sound for the fest. So those guys are going to kind of kick it off. Then it goes into THV, who we were talking about, two-piece from Grand Rapids, Ed and Evan. And, they've got this like really cool, like avant-garde, Ween / Zappa inspired. They're their own thing. I don't want to drop too many names, but we were talking about them earlier.
Very technical and very fun and wild.
Exactly.
So not to cut you off,
No,
we can go into that, but we are actually, we do a reaction episode occasionally, and they send in a song, so we're going to do a solid reaction episode. We'll do that after this interview's over, because we usually pod a couple in a day or whatever.
Awesome.
So we'll give it an honest review
Yeah.
here.
I just listened to their live
so-
album that they dropped too. It was awesome. We
Yeah.
listened to it in the hot tub. I was
think-
like, yeah.
Right. So having them that early in the lineup, and I want to just tell people, I encourage you to get out there early enough to see them, because they're going to be a lot of fun, and they're going to really set the stage for the day. Literally, they're going to set the stage for the day.
Absolutely.
Like they're gonna set the bar, because they're
Yep.
a lot of fun. That's all I can say right now.
Don't miss those guys either. I will absolutely be. I'm going to be taking photos of everyone at the fest, so of course I'll be up front, which is where I like to always be, anyways.
Look them up ahead of time, just so that you can know what you're in for. If you're
100%.
inclined, because you're gonna want to be able to groove to it like they do.
Yep, totally. Yeah, you'll want to get there early to check them out. They're slotted at 3:15 p.m. Whether or not we can stay exactly on schedule will be another thing. Doors are going to be at 2. First performance at 2:30. So
we're doing 35-minute sets. 30 minutes.
A little bit shorter, maybe. Like around 25, as long as we can load off and on.
I love that. I love that. There's
short
really
sets, backlining.
short sets, backlining. Like get it in, get it out. When
Yep.
you got 10 bands, it's already a long day. So like,
Yes.
you don't want anybody to wear out their welcome, because it's kind of like, it's not about you, it's about the fest,
Right.
that kind of thing. So
Yeah. And
but-
for any of the bands that are listening, I mean, I put out a lot of information. I've tried to stay like very organized with this, and I got my little spreadsheets. It was funny. Dane would like call me for a checkup, and I'm like, I sent you a spreadsheet. And it's like, wow, what a different time. I've never said that to you before. But, just in talking about how things are going to stay organized. But for any of the bands on the fest that may be watching, yes, getting your shit together and getting off the stage, super important. I mean, that's the one thing that you learn as a seasoned musician when you do play like multi-band shows and fests, is you don't want to be that band that's like, struggling to get your stuff off the stage 20 minutes later. No offense, because I know it happens to everybody, but yeah, definitely speedy on and off.
Yep. Okay.
Right after THV, we've got the Mollusks, and they call themselves like beach goth. It's kind of like this ambient, like surfy punk kind of thing. They sort of sound like, a little bit of Joy Division, like Echo and the Bunnymen, but they've got their like own thing. So I like those guys. I think they're super cool. They're going on after that. At 4:45, we've got Attrition Cult. You guys know those guys?
Not yet, but they did just play with our buddy, both of our buddies' bands, Throne and the Black Temple. They played the show at Mulligan's, and I know they're like kind of like black metal kind of stuff or whatever. So I don't know them personally, but they're definitely a band I'd like to get on the show and know a little more, because when you say black metal, my eyebrows.
Oh
do
yeah,
this, so.
they'd be perfect for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued and interested. Same as Jay. Like I have not heard them yet, but I'm waiting. The time will come.
So I just posted, for anybody that is interested, a blog on the heartonyoursleeve.com website, or hoysfest.com. Both get you there. But I'm posting vlogs of all the bands. And so those are being released. We just actually did Attrition Cult, so you could read a little bit more about them.
I did read that, so
sweet.
thank you. And we'll be reading that because I asked Ed to send us information about his band when we do the review, which that episode will be out before this fest, so you guys can check that out too. But I'll be reading off your blog about their band on the show too.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I think it was like I care when I write them, so it should be a good reference for you guys. Patricia Cult, like you said, black metal, super fast, some really doomy stuff in there, a ton of noise. It's cool, very, very noisy, good noisy. And I really only know Travis, so I'm meeting those guys for the first time as well. But yeah, so they're on at about 4:45. After them, we've got another 2-piece. I love that we have like a lot of 2-pieces sprinkled on the bill. But are you guys familiar with Phantom?
I am somewhat. I know their drummer, but I have not actually had a chance to listen to the music.
another band that sent in a song that we're going to listen to. So
perfect.
so if you're listening to this episode before the show, if you want to hear reviews of those or reactions from me and Nick of those two bands, that reaction episode will be out after this one, like a week after or something. So you guys can check that out too. So
yep, they got they're another one that's got like a lot of like doomy like stonery stuff going on. Those kind of riffs and like growly vocals and stuff like that. A little bit lower BPM.
I'm gonna love
it.
I already know I'm gonna love it.
Yep, it's cool, man.
James
and Cody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know James.
Yep.
Yeah, you know Cody too.
Yeah, I know Cody too.
So,
Amazing.
So those
Vandal
guys.
known as Myth.
There it is. There's a name.
Remember
that band?
Was it Cody?
Yeah, I thought Cody played drums
was
and
he?
James played guitar. Yeah.
Okay,
and
I
they
sometimes
had
I like
the
have
power glove.
Yeah, and it's and of course I was gonna say
Kenny.
I was gonna say the Paladins.
Yeah.
Cam, our drummer, that's his brother.
Oh really?
Kenny, yeah.
Oh,
and
shit.
recently, I have to tell you guys this. Cam was like, our drummer. He's like 30, so he's like 14 years younger than me. We're standing at his house, and he's like, "Yeah, I played a fest once. It was this fest called Rock for Rosie Fest." And I was like, "Dude, that was my fest. That was at my house." And he was like, "Whoa, wow, yeah." And I was like, "What did you play with?" And he was like, "I played with the Nick Scott Experience." I look back on these photos, y'all. He's like 10.
Dang,
He's a
that's crazy.
kid
Yeah.
playing the show.
Wow.
And I'm like a full ass grown woman, like running this fest. That's how much older I am than him. It tripped me out. I was looking back at the pictures. I was like, wow. But
that's cool.
He was really talented back then. He's
I mean,
a
if
natural.
Kenny's any relation to him, well, God knows how good that dude is. So
Yeah, they're a musical family for sure.
Love it.
But those guys are going to be awesome. Right after that, we have Snake Out, who I know we've already kind of talked a little bit about with.
that's
we were
Jeremy's
chatting about
band.
Jeremy
and
and
he's been on the show a couple times. We talked mostly Pain Divine, but we did talk some Snake Out, so I'm familiar and I've listened to their stuff or whatever. I gave him shit because he told me they were what did he tell me? They were rock and roll, so I told him they weren't rock and roll because they're more like punk, like almost post-hardcore kind of stuff because they're pretty aggressive and like when you say rock and roll, I'm thinking like fucking Elvis Presley, and I'm like, that's not as like you know what I mean? Like what rock and roll?
The Hives.
They definitely have some like post-hardcore, for fans of like I mean I'm not saying they're derivative or they're too much like them, but like Bear versus Shark.
Oh yeah.
Brett's got that real like scream singy vocals. Mm-hmm. I actually I drop in for a song on their new album.
Okay.
And January 13th, we're playing together at Rake Beer Project, and I'm gonna come do that song with those guys. So
hell yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I really like those guys. Lots of good melodies and everything that you said too. And so we're pumped to play with them. And then after that, we've got Them Teeth, who we chatted a little bit about earlier. Those guys are supposed to be on around the 7 p.m. mark.
Okay.
And they're another 3-piece, just like super heavy hitting. Like they've been together a decade.
Yeah.
And we played with them at Mulligan's back in October. And honestly, they were just like this smooth moving machine of complete destruction. Like they're just super heavy, solid as hell, like groove. I think they're getting to like a great point. I'm proud of those guys for being together for a decade. That shit is hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
And to be making good music still, they haven't like nothing's faltered there.
Yeah.
So
That's tough.
yeah, they're doing great. And then right after them, we have us, Tongue Cutter, obviously. We've chatted a lot about. We're very excited to play. It was funny when we talked about the lineup. When I told the guys, they were like, "Oh, we got a good slot." I was like, "Well, I know the lady that put together the best."
You're like, yeah, it helps.
I know.
Yeah, those perks help.
I also had to tell these guys, now we're probably not going to play this fest for a year or so. So don't get too excited about the same thing happening next year because I'm all about fairness. And, this year, yes, we're playing in a good spot. But man, we're trying to keep everything just very transparent and like feel good, like warm fuzzies for everybody. And I want to make sure that we save a lot of space. There's plenty of talent. So right after us is going to be Tiny Tree, which obviously I know you guys know.
Love that band.
Yep.
That's gonna
Lots
be
of history with both of those
Addison's
guys.
my brother. Yep.
And yeah, I'm very excited. I haven't seen them play in a really long time, at least like 2 or 3 years. I think the last time was at Unruly. And they're warming things up for If He Dies, He Dies, which obviously has, been a topic of conversation here. And most people are aware.
Mhm.
If you haven't heard If He Dies, He Dies, if you're listening to this, I'm assuming a lot of your fans have, but just in case, they are kind of a local metalcore legend.
Mhm.
Maybe for fans of things like, Crowbar and bands like that. But I feel like they also bring like this wonderful intensity live. And that's why everybody's excited about this fest. They've done obviously so much to push that forward and generate a ton of excitement after selling out the Pyramid Scheme. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They sounded killer there too. So
Yeah, they were on their A game as they said they would deliver. They did.
Yep.
They backed up what they said they were going to deliver, and that was an A+ performance. I felt like they did that. And another cornerstone of the scene, Dies is like something that I think every one of us will humbly admit, like, I want to be on that stage right fucking now with them. Like, I want to be doing that because they're doing it like so well, and they have been. And it's good to see them back doing it. I think they're personally one of my favorite bands. I missed them when they were gone.
Me too.
I look at
Me too.
my album collection, and Dies just sits there, well, next to Infinite Design because letter I, but also I think of them as just being like a band that I would listen to and go out to see in a concert, regardless of knowing them or regardless of them being from Muskegon. They just have a style of music that I think is really cool and heavy, and it does breathe. And Brent brings a lot of authenticity with his lyrics and vocals.
Yep. And they bring a lot of different kind of people together. You guys can agree from the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I really enjoy their music like on a legitimate level, but nothing beats the live experience of them, right?
Right.
So I feel like people who maybe aren't even fans of, metal or whatever can go out and be like, wow, this energy is infectious.
Yeah.
And I was totally the chick that was just up front. Like I let my hair air dry that day and it was like all poofy. And I was up there with my cocktail, just like my neck hurt so bad the next day. I was like dying.
Yeah. I mean, they just write good shit. And like every time I watch them, I mean, they're all talented in their own way, but like Dane is just a different kind of drummer. Like he's just a different level. Like if you got that dude in your band, you don't have anything to worry about. Like just play your shit right and don't even worry about anything else. I mean, Ephraim, they're all great. Don't get me wrong. They all do their thing. But it's
he's
just
a
always
talented beast. Though,
Dane's
for sure.
always just been one of my favorite drummers, just hands down. Like even since the Basement days, I'd watch him play, and I'm just like, Jesus, dude. Like, how are you just that tight but that tasteful, like technical but that like playing easy shit too? Like it's nothing like over the top, but yet at the same time, it's like nobody's just gonna be able to play like he plays. So it's just like always this thing where his drums have always just like kind of blown me away. Like how, but that's almost a testament to their band too, because that's kind of how their band is. They're not like overly technical, but yet they play enough technicality where it makes it interesting. But they just write really good fucking songs and they're catchy too. But then they're all over the place too. So it's kind of like they have something special,
For sure.
They do
He's
something
got
special.
like a ton of like groove and finesse as a drummer. There's a very, a touch, not a touch, but like a very strong stylistic approach, that is tons of fluidity to it. And I know that's why he does excellently as a session musician, as a studio musician, because he can drop in and do that,
He's really decorated up top. Like he just moves around so well, and he's got a lot of drums.
When
and
you said
cymbals that-
decorated up top, I'm not gonna lie, I totally thought of somebody with like a huge rack,
slapping their
Sorry,
own titties.
Dane.
Dane slapping
He's
their own
just
titties.
decorated up top.
Dane's got that nice decoration up top.
Brent, I just posted a picture on the fest page though of Brent with his arm around me up front. And man, what a front man, and like just what a character. So much fun with him over the years too. And he does a great job. Like all of them do. I love what everybody brings, but just to mention, I always appreciated that. Like that post was kind of about how he was always up front, half the time, like he was in the photo, like literally with his arm around me as I'm playing, and the feelings of us all being together and standing in front. That feeling when you're playing a show and like you look around and it's just like packed and everybody's up close. And there's those people that you really love and respect, which are like 99% of the time other musicians, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you know they actually care
Yeah.
about the music.
Mhm.
They're not just standing in the back
Exactly.
doing this shit. Yeah.
That is so
Well,
meaningful.
They Ephraim and Brent came out and watched Iron Sharpens Iron show like I don't it must have been 6 weeks ago now or 8 weeks ago or so, but they actually came out and watched us play.
That's awesome.
And Brent was standing right up front or whatever,
Yep.
and he was giving me my flowers, which I don't need. Like, it's not why I do it. I just do it because I like
But
the
it
fucking
feels
jam.
good,
But it's just
though.
like
It
cool
feels
because I
good.
respect him as a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like cool. You came out here
Yeah.
to watch us, and you're standing in front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say you like it, so it means a lot to me.
That
so
means
it's
everything.
yeah. It means,
It's okay to say, like those accolades and that
Well,
validation.
I sit in my room and I will think about a random musician will come to my mind. Oh, what if that person showed up and watched me play? Like, I'm not thinking about, God bless every single person that comes out to watch live music. Yeah, obviously we're there for you.
Right.
But I get like a set of nerves about another local musician coming in and whose skill ceiling I'm aware of. You're like, I know how good they are.
Yeah.
And they're coming to watch me play. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this is why you sit at home and practice for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Like, or I'll be thinking about that person just in case they do show up. I was ready for
Right.
your ass.
Yeah.
Like, this part you didn't think I could land? Look at me go now.
Dude, and everybody's got their own flavor. I always felt that because I was a guitar instructor for years. In fact, we were talking about Snake Out. It's so funny. Like when I saw Jeremy, like the last time, he's like, "Hey, it's my favorite guitar teacher," because he was my student. That's how I met him.
Right.
Yeah.
He was my guitar student, which she's freaking awesome. I mean, I'm proud to say that I ever helped him with anything. But going back that far as like everybody starting out somewhere and knowing all the musicians and caring about what they think, I think that it's just one of those feelings when somebody shows up and like you haven't seen them in a long time or you're caring about what they think. Everybody is welcome. We love all the people that come to shows, but there's something extra special about those musicians that you respect, being
yeah.
up front and
Yeah.
like knowing that they care about your music. It does feel like the flowers, like you said. I think it's okay to feel that too. I'm always feeling validated when somebody shows up and I haven't seen them in a long time. I'm like, oh my God,
Especially if it's reciprocal, right? Like you
Yeah.
love what they do. You've seen their bands and you're just a fan regardless. It doesn't matter, how well you know them. You've seen their band play
Mhm.
and they're from the
Yep.
area
Yeah.
and you're going to see them again. And then when the roles are reversed and they're watching you,
Yep.
you're like, it's almost surreal to think that they might have that same feeling.
Yeah.
Do they really enjoy my music like I enjoy their
Yeah.
music? Like, no fucking way. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be. No way, because I really like their music on a
Yes.
personal level. It means something dear to me. Am I really having that impact on somebody
Yeah,
right now? Like
it feels so profound.
yeah. And there's
I
a little
got
bit of
myself
disbelief.
sidetracked too because I was talking about guitar students. What I was going to say is all those years I worked with these people who, pardon me, ADHD, they were just like these incredible guitarists that I was like, I literally was not there. I mean, I was young. I was a good teacher and, I was inspired and stuff like that. But, very technical players would come and see like Indrid or my soul stuff. And I'd be like, but they were on such an opposite side of the fence. Like, it's like when you go and see a really simplistic punk band that you might love very, very, very much, and you love all, and maybe they're thinking, oh, you're from a black metal band, or you got these chops and stuff. No, we can't do what other people do, and laying in bed thinking about other musicians, like, wow, they're on this level and they would like my stuff. It's like, yeah, that happens all the time. We're all like
Right.
very cross pollinating, and it feels so good to know someone else that you respect, that who maybe you even think is, this superior musician or whatever, enjoys your music,
Yeah.
validates you.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, and that goes back to the relationships though too, because if
Yeah.
you got a relationship with that person, that's also at the end of the day, we talk about this, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. We talked about this a little bit even before the show started rolling. It's those relationships that you build, and all this music stuff. At the end of the day, no matter what you accomplish or whatever, it's about the friends you've come out
Mhm.
with, the
Yeah.
shows you've played with them, the experiences that you've experienced,
The
with them.
memories.
Yeah, so that's extremely important too. I mean, that's the validation. It's like,
Yeah.
that's my bro.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he at least is acknowledging all of this work that I've been putting in to try to express myself, because it takes a lot just to get on stage and express yourself,
Mhm.
your music, and you're thinking about trying to play well.
Right.
That's a whole different fucking thing. Because there's a humbleness to that, because I hold going back to Dies, I hold those guys on a high regard, but being backstage when I was filming and doing all that stuff, it's like they're just like all the rest of us too. Like They're nervous before the show.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
anxious. They want to play. They want to do well.
Yeah.
They want to put on a
Totally.
good show.
Yep.
So it's like, oh,
They
that's
were all
not just
feeling
me.
it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not
And they
just
worked
me.
really hard
Oh,
for
yeah.
that.
I believe it.
They worked their butts off to sell that
Yeah.
place out, man.
I believe
Yeah.
it.
The amount of work that went in, and peddling tickets legit in person. And I mean, obviously everybody wanted to see them, but I mean, it was
Sure.
a ton of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny that you said that, because I hadn't seen Brent in a long time, and he gave me a hug. He's like, I'm freaking out, man. I was like, yeah, you got nothing to worry about. Of course, they were amazing.
Right.
But I know that took an intense amount of work to relearn all that material and
Mhm.
stuff too after
bet.
such a long break.
So what time did they go on? What's the last band go on at 10 o'clock? You said.
Yeah, so they're a little slight bit earlier than that. Let me look really quick here. We've got them on at 9:15.
Okay, so when does the
And-
fest completely start then?
The doors open at 2.
2?
Yep,
And then it ends when?
We're going to be definitely closing doors at 11 and have everybody out at that time. Last call will probably be somewhere around the 10:15 mark.
Okay.
So, that's when we'll be winding things down. We'll probably aim to kind of get everybody out of the building by 10:30. I mean, not get everybody out by 10:30, but like start to kind of like
Yeah,
clean
like
things
the
up and
bands
wind it
might be
down.
lingering, but y'all got
Right.
to go.
Yeah.
right. Everybody's got to be gone by 11. We
Yeah.
can clean up a little bit while people are there.
Right.
But I think If He Dies set is only going to be about 45 minutes as
Okay.
well. So that'll give a little bit of space for, everybody to hang out and visit together, we
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
half
get
hour or
shit
45
cleaned up and
minutes.
whatever.
Yeah.
So how are you going about the alcohol? Like, did you have to have a certain thing to be able to sell alcohol there, or how does that work?
So they have been extremely relaxed about that. We asked many questions. I honestly can't say enough good things about working with Hagar's Hideaway first and foremost.
Okay.
They're very relaxed, and they want everybody to have a good time. They're well aware of the fest and everything that we're trying to do. And so they just recommended being careful about
Please do.
IDs and
Mhm.
Yeah.
doing all the things legitimately
Yes.
that we could run it a few different ways. What we ultimately decided on, we are going to have professional bartenders that are getting paid. So we're staffing people that are good servers and everything like that. But I think we're going with a ticketing system. We already have tickets built in, to the ticket prices. And we just figured it would be easier if our bartenders didn't have to do an exchange there. So if you bought a ticket with drink tickets in there, you've got a couple to start. But the majority of the evening, we're going to try to encourage people to buy some drink tickets ahead of time, which you can get, a deal on if you buy a couple at a time. And we'll have kind of a station set up where you can buy your drink tickets and then, cash them in at the bar.
Then go to the bar. Okay.
Just to keep things moving
Right. Yes.
smoothly through the night.
Yeah.
And make sure we cover all our bases with, of course, like IDing people. And we want everything to be very safe. So if you're listening and you're planning on coming to the fest, have fun, eat breakfast that day, keep your pants on, drink responsibly,
Yeah. Just be cool.
be
So,
how
cool.
about
Keep this
that?
cool for all of us so
Yeah.
that we can
Oh,
do this.
do it
you know?
again.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have stop me at lecturing about being cool in the fucking hall, please. I don't want to be like dad, but I mean, please, as they have said, respect the venue. We want to do this again in
Yes.
other venues too, other halls if we can, right?
Right.
Like bring back the hall show. So, and it's an old building, so please be respectful. Like, be careful, be mindful. Chantal, I was going to ask you. And now I lost my train of thought. Damn it. Go ahead, take it away. I'll come back to my thought. I
Well,
totally
That
blanked
happened to
on it.
me
No,
with
go ahead.
that happened to me.
What I wanted to ask is, I seen you had put a post out about needing some help. Are you
Yeah.
still in need of some people to help, or is that anything like
Okay.
we can do for this podcast
Yeah.
to help?
So-
Obviously, when we're putting it out, people can still hear. If they
Yeah.
contact you, or,
Let me run through mentally here really quick.
Yeah,
I
go
know we
ahead.
have at least one bouncer who is got a friend, so we may need it. We might need a second. So if you're interested in bouncing, get at me after this podcast, and you can message the Heart on Your Sleeve page, or you can find me. But I think we've got, our bartending staff all taken care of because we had some paid positions. Anything where money was being handled, we want to make sure that, everything is running smoothly there. It's really important to us to be able to take care of the bands well and pay
Yeah.
for everything. The other financial goal I had was to set aside just enough money to cover the hall for next year. Because my thought is like, if this goes on annually, maybe at some point, we want to pass the torch to somebody who doesn't have the seed money,
Mhm.
but then it's there
Right.
to somebody responsible who's like, you want to do this and run
Yeah.
with it? Here's the money to get started, So in any case, we want to be legit with all that. So I think our wait staff is taken care of. We had a couple people that are going to help us with band hospitality, just taking care of bands. I would still be interested in somebody who's interested in running the door during the evening portion. I have a few volunteers I think they're going to help do some things as well, but that could be a potential area. We're going to have a table where they're running the door that's right up front by the stage, so you'd still be able to watch the show from a seated position or a standing position right next to it, whatever you want to do. But that could be something for a period of hours in the later evening that we might need someone. But we filled a lot of spots. I think just a general helper would probably still be needed. So if there's anybody out there listening that wants to just
Extra set of hands.
Yep, an extra set of hands. I don't have officially, I think, someone in our like parking attendant either, which is another thing. And I hope that that person won't have to be like outside a ton, although it looks like we're going to have kind of a mild winter. But we
Now-
do need to make sure that parking happens across the street.
I was just going to say, now that's like slightly up the road and across the street. There's like a huge deep lot there. That's
Yep.
the lot you mean?
I believe so. I
Like
need to.
across from the marina, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it should be. It's like right within walking distance,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's very close.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the
even
one.
in the dead of winter, it's like a half a block tops from
Yep.
the parking lot across the street and then
Yes.
just up the sidewalk.
Yeah, because
Yep.
there's not really too many spots to park there.
No.
So
There
probably
isn't.
that'll be mostly taken up from bands.
Exactly. Yep.
So
It's
you'll
got to be equipment transport
You'll
and
be
things like
pulling
that.
up just short of Hager's Hideaway for those who are not familiar with the location of the venue as you're heading down
Yep.
Lakeshore Drive. You'll be looking like for the marina on your left, and then all of a sudden, like an open parking lot will emerge on your left. And then you can park, and there's a lot of spots
Yep.
there, like 100 or more cars can squeeze
Okay.
in there. So
Yeah.
just get out
Exactly.
in that parking lot and then walk to the venue like a couple hundred feet.
Yes. Thank you so much for breaking that down. We'll definitely be doing that. And we'll have, I think, hopefully we can put up some temporary signs and that won't be an issue. And we'll send out an email blast to all of our ticket holders to let them know what's going on with all this
Awesome.
stuff that we're chatting about. But yes, we're going to try to make sure to keep that, rolling smoothly because there isn't very many spots up front. And like I said, the max capacity on the building is actually about 180, but we wanted to account for our volunteers and our band and then, people. And it's looking like it's going to be sold out. And I have no idea, you never know who's planning on being there the whole day and so on
Yeah.
and so forth.
So that
But
right
I
there,
think it's going to be looking good.
let me piggyback on that last sentiment. Who's going to be there all day? Are people going to be allowed to like come and go, some form or fashion, bracelets? Like
Yeah.
it's an early start to the day. I could imagine at some point somebody's going to say, "Let's run to Mickey D's real
Yeah,
quick" or
right.
whatever.
100%. Yeah, we're definitely going to allow reentry, no doubt, because it is a long day.
Yeah.
But also, we are planning on having food and things like that
Ooh.
because we want people to be able to eat and enjoy bands.
There you go.
I personally am cooking for this, and a lot of people have eaten at my house, so I hope that's a good thing that I say that.
Yeah.
But my plan right now, there's going to be a couple little snacky things, but we are going to have nacho plates. We're going to have carnivorous, and we're going to have a vegan
Okay.
option.
Nice.
So we just figured that would be an easy thing to pay $1 or $2 for, have super cheap plates of nachos and
Mhm.
some other things so that people can have a little something to fill up their bellies, especially if they're hanging out and drinking for a
Mhm.
while or
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Especially with alcohol involved, you should have something in your stomach.
Yes, exactly.
Did you remember what you wanted to say?
That was it. The coming
Okay.
and going
Okay.
in and out of the venue is something I wanted to know about for people who, might want to be there all day,
Right.
and experience as much of it as possible, but also feel the need to step out if need be.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
Smoke
thank you.
that tree.
Exactly. Just
Smoke
just
that
just
tiny
do it
tree.
outside. Just make sure you do it outside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
Don't stink
Yeah.
out the
I wanted to ask you about the tickets. So how is that working? Because I know pre-ordering, you got a QR code. Is that what they're
Yep.
scanning at the door? Because obviously we don't have no physical tickets except the ones we'll talk about in just a second that you made up.
Exactly.
But that's all it is a QR
Yep.
code.
And for that reason,
So-
we probably, I don't know if we'll do we probably will do a wristband for 21 and up. And I don't think we'll have too many minors. And I suppose, either way, you can easily show your QR code for reentry as well, and avoid, an extra paper product. But yes, it's a QR scan. The only physical tickets that we have are for the giveaway. So all of it is digital. And pretty much for people also that are coming, that are going to hang out and drink, we're hoping to really push digital payment as well for drinks. So cash and digital payment are going to be the ways to go. We are going to have a way to run cards, but we're hoping the amount of transactions there is minimal for time and all the things. So it'll definitely be get your Venmos ready and bring your cash for tipping and stuff like that. And
cool,
that'll just
cool.
keep, service moving quickly, I think.
Heck yeah. So also with that being said, we are going to do a giveaway here. 2
Yes.
tickets
Yep.
for the fest. Try to get you guys in. We're just going to require a few things. You guys will probably see. We'll put a little ad together. Like I said, we'll talk about that a little more after the show or whatever. But what I'm thinking is they'll I had it in my head last night and I didn't write it down, but something about definitely subscribe to the page, probably Metal Maniacs page, your page. Tag somebody that you want to bring because we're giving out 2 tickets.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I want to share on the post.
Yeah, I
So
think that would be awesome.
You know what I mean? So they have to share it too. That
Yeah.
way it goes out one further each time.
Yeah.
Yep.
To hear about the fest, because if it's sold out, there might be their only 2 tickets you're going to be able to get is from us.
Yep.
So
Yeah, definitely.
you know,
That could be a possibility by the time this airs that the tickets are all gone and we are sold out.
Yeah.
It's absolutely possible, highly possible. So.
yeah. So that's going to be something
Yes.
y'all want to get on. You know,
For sure.
But appreciate you working with us on that.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
we're
No,
excited to be there. And
I'm
Yep,
stoked.
we've got 2 tickets. We've got 2 pairs of glow glasses.
yes.
And if you're 21 and up, which you'll prove when you get there, you'll get your 2 drink tickets as well. So I gave you guys the party pack tickets.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, I got a couple drinks. You can have an awesome, fun music date with somebody or your bro or whoever,
Yeah.
your
So-
gal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be there. Like I said, with the booth, we'll have some goodies to give away and stuff, just to support the fest and keep the scene alive. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over? Anything else that you wanted to talk about? Or
As far as the fest goes, I think that we really covered it well. We're just really excited to have like this grassroots intimate experience. We're hoping that everybody, keeps it cool like we were talking about and helps us get through the flow well. I would love anybody that's interested in volunteering to reach out. Definitely stay updated with the socials because we're putting out like weekly blogs and fun old pictures. To anyone who's watching that has cool hall show pictures from back in the day, please send them to me. And I would love to promote you and your old band or whatever that it is.
Nice.
We love telling the old stories and
Yeah,
we
for
want
sure.
everybody to feel really nostalgic for this. So
I feel like Muskegon's had a really rich history in music, so I think sharing those things and like letting people know like we used to have it really good here and we want to bring it back and make it
Yes.
better.
100%.
I almost thought about, and I wasn't 100% sure, but like I have all those videos on like my personal YouTube page or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking about transferring them to the Metal Maniacs page
Mhm.
under just a different thing, just so when we're talking about this stuff or people listen
Yeah.
to these episodes, they could go back and easily access them.
That would be so
Just
cool.
something I was thinking about,
Yeah.
just to make it easier
Yeah.
for people, so I don't have to
Yeah.
try to look up my personal YouTube, because I just put those up for me
Yeah.
and the people that I shared them with,
Right.
like you
Right.
and the guys from Dice.
That would be
and
awesome to have
you,
them
because
hosted.
we have a
so
lot of the old other shit like Room 237 and
Yeah.
So
all,
like
you know.
Jay's, he got a pretty good like archive of things.
Yeah.
But I always wish we had more. Like I always wish we
yeah.
were able to record every single show. So going forward, I think knowing that we're doing this, that we have the capability of like recording some amount of everybody's set, like
Yeah.
a snippet, or if bands were to say, hey, if you're only gonna get one, like this is the one, like just wave us down. Hey, you
Yeah.
guys got them cameras on? This is the one. This is the
Right.
hit single. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's kind of what I want to do,
Yeah.
is at least get a section, and then we'll probably pair it with like because I would like to talk to every band, so I'm gonna put that out there too for every band to at least come see us.
yeah, for
Because
sure.
I'm not probably gonna chase you around because we'll be like pretty stationary. But
Glued.
Yeah. no.
obviously they're gonna talk
Totally
to you
reasonable.
right. What we're not gonna talk to you while the other bands are playing, but like in between bands, if you're not setting up, just come see us at the booth or whatever. We'll talk to you for 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever, or 5-10 minutes. I mean. And then we'll make sure that we get some video of the band, and then we'll kind of pair that together.
I
and
love
then,
it. I
you
think
know,
that's going to be so freaking cool. And what a treasure for us to have next year to
Yeah.
get people, ramped up so they can see like what the experience was. And just from an archival perspective,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you guys are going to do that. I think that's amazing.
Now, if this thing got super big, beyond the capacity that Hager's Hideaway holds, do you have anything else in mind growing it going forward, or did you not like put the cart before the horse yet?
I
I mean, 'cause-
vacillated on that because like we want it to be successful. We also love having the idea of keeping it lakeshore oriented. And I think we always will have like 90%. But we're thinking if we do get a little bit more successful with it, it would be very cool to have a national band come. I
Mhm.
mean, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be sweet to
Yeah.
have somebody headline the fest in the future who's maybe out of state and then keep the rest local.
Mhm.
And so, capacity is something that we've looked at. Also love the smallness and feeling big.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm ready to completely give up on that, although it would be nice maybe to even hop up to like a place that had a max capacity of like 250 or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
But also financially, it's a great place to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
If you feel that you've got a little bit of coin to front and you can be responsible with things. We want to make sure that we proceed with a lot of respect for Hagar's Hideaway, that they're allowing us to do this. And it's honestly an amazing space. But like we were talking about from the educational perspective, if people can kind of get a grip on what, it takes to put those together, I think this would be a great thing to multiply moving forward in small settings, because it does feel big when there's a minimal amount of people, and that's like kind of what we're going for.
Right.
And if you budget it correctly, I think, you can also like pay bands pretty decently.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say, I like the idea of like, I like both ideas, like making it a little bit bigger, but also it's kind of like, it's the club. You got in when the 150 got in, and then that's who got in, because there's already gonna be a gang of band members there too. So like, assuming,
I love knowing that who is there wants to be there really badly.
Yeah, but we know how bands go too. It's like, we're hoping that everybody there is like there and going to be there to support everybody all day. But I get it, logistics, time, sometimes it doesn't work out. But
somebody gonna have to
this kind of fest, the Heart on Your Sleeve fest, like that's the kind of situation where, like, if you're in a band, I feel like you should be there hanging out, like trying to support all the other bands as well, because that's what you want to. You want those 30 people. Well, a lot of the bands on here are small bands. We're not one 5-piece to be seen on this fest.
There will be, though. There will be. It's so funny. I'm like, did I do that? I'm like, oh, what? We were in that mind frame. But yeah, I'm sure we're going to have like more 5-pieces. But it is.
I just thought it was funny because you're like, here's a 2-piece, here's a 3-piece, here's another 2-piece. I was like, oh.
I know, that's
a
true.
lot of small bands on this one.
You're right.
Not on purpose. It's just
that's
the
funny,
bands
though.
that are
You're
playing,
right.
but,
I'm like, dang, we don't have any 5-pieces.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's probably just like the format norm right now. It's easier to get 2 or 3 people in a room, like Addison's, lament is just easier to just do one other person in the band. For me, I got to have like 4 other dudes. That's why I'm always pulling my hair out trying to get a fucking practice or a band together. It's like,
right.
It's too many hands.
We're a
hard.
5-piece right now. Iron sharpens, but that's just the way it's got to go. I mean,
it has to be for me. Also, I come from that same school. I got to have a 5-piece. I'm looking forward to this so much, Chantal. Thank you so much for like getting it all together. Now, with respect to the business end of things, you said you're documenting that as well. Are those videos out, or are you putting them out later in like a series, like how to do it?
I haven't even thought about the public aspect of that for all to consume, because that is totally cool. We have been sharing, this information with the bands.
Okay.
Because we thought that maybe, that would be the audience that would be most likely. But I also understand that may not be the case, moving forward, that maybe somebody who's not in a band is interested in cultivating some of that.
Absolutely.
So I'll have to really think on that, because I wanted to document my whole process. Like so nerdy to say, but now that, I'm a businesswoman and I got my little master's degree in, business, it's like, I did some projections. I wrote all the money, what we think we're going to need for alcohol. I'm documenting it all because it would be cool to have something to plug and play. Somebody say, all right, I got $600 or $700 of seed money. Like I was saying before, here's my process. I'm going to need
Here's my whole business plan.
Here's my whole business plan. And I can make this happen every year.
Yeah. I think that would be crucial for somebody, like you said, who's not in a band, but totally has their heart in doing something like an event like this, musical or not. We obviously here, we want to talk about a heavy metal show for our, purposes. But I think sharing that sort of information when you got it the way you want, dialed in a way that you could present it to people, would be invaluable to many.
Yeah.
And good for you too. Like, it'll show off that master's degree, that entrepreneurship, you'll be on display there.
We wrote kind of like I wrote this, manual too for all the bands to see, that had all that. It's got all of our financial breakdown. They see what we're paying everybody.
Sweet.
Headliners and 20-minute sets.
Yep.
Because I wanted it to feel very honest from the start.
Yeah.
And I've got goals, and, I always got a little something up my sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
But, because I love making people, I want to make musicians feel really treasured and like the talent.
Yeah.
So that is like a number one primary goal for us in this. But, it's all out there, which is another thing that's hugely lacking. Fiscal transparency in underground music. I am tired as a musician of, venues taking money at the door and never discussing money with performing acts beforehand. That's bad business. It's a bad look.
Mm-hmm.
So a whole manual is what we're trying to write that somebody can pick up and run with and reproduce this.
Yeah.
Well, musicians are always last in line to get paid too, right? And we're up there on the stage doing the work, and not to mention the 30 to 60 minutes that we're on stage or what have you playing the music, but all the hours that we put in just of our own. Nobody's paying us to practice. We're just doing it because we love it. And then to be like, the absolute last person to see money after any performance is, you know, you do it for the love. We say that all the time, and we do. That's why we keep coming back for next to no payment.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
which is like still such BS. You know, back in the day, even our basement shows, we were paying bands like $100 back in the 2000s
Right.
each, which is like
big money.
oh,
Yeah.
nobody
Then-
even makes that now, which is sad.
It's
I know.
like $10,000 now.
Dude,
feels
yeah,
like it.
right. It's like, it is so messed up. I think there's only 2 conditions where it's okay to not get paid when you play as a band. Seriously. Number 1, someone is straight up with you about it at the beginning and they say, hey, man, it's hard for us to keep the lights on over here. We really can't pay, but we can offer A, B, and C. You know, are you cool with that?
Sure.
Okay, we've
Mhm.
discussed it ahead of time.
Yes.
Right.
Number 2, hey, man, we're not paying you because all this money is going to the touring band. Cool. There's
Yeah.
number 2.
Well, I-
Number
well,
3, if you charge at the door and you never talk to bands about it, please stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
It
mean?
Yeah,
That's so
it's
shisty, man.
It hurts so much as when you're in a band and you don't know there's a cover at the door and you tell all your friends to come and then they're like, yeah, with $10, I don't have it. So I didn't see your show last night. Sorry. And you're like, oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't know either.
Right.
The third instance in which it's okay to play for free is when it's for charity,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
which
should have said
probably
that too.
omitted
Which,
Yeah.
naturally.
and it's kind of like number 1 too. We've
Really?
already
Yeah.
discussed with you ahead of time why you're not getting paid
Sure,
for
right,
this.
that,
But I,
yeah.
but I 1,000%
Yeah,
agree.
like when people ask me to do a charitable event, I'm like, yes, I will, because I am wired like that. Like,
Of
absolutely,
course.
I would love to play for somebody for a good reason like
Yeah.
that. You know?
Yes,
No need to be selfish
absolutely.
at that point.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I'm for that sort of life. So
Definitely.
I do want to
definitely.
ask you real quick. We touched on the blogs.
Mhm.
So, how often are you releasing these? Have you released them all, or what is your schedule for releasing that look like? Because I've seen them here and there online, but
That one really hurts. What's my schedule? Ouch. No, I'm terrible with schedules. I have been really, now I'm going to try to step up my game because I've got like 3 or 4 released. And so I've got like 6 more to go. And essentially I'll be dropping 1 a week probably.
Okay.
You know, somewhere around that realm. I'm trying to
Something
go in
like that.
order.
okay.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to do that exactly yet because of just some limitations with, you know, people having time to chat and things for the blogs. But for the most part, we're kind of moving through the day as it goes. So the last one to go out, you know, will probably be a really fun coverage of If He Dies, He Dies. I think I might roll up there and hang with those guys, you know, and maybe we'll create a fun piece of content or something together to kind of
Oh,
push
yeah.
things. But yeah, aiming for once a week. I really wanted to give everybody a write up too, you
Mhm.
know, because it always feels good when somebody writes about your music.
Yeah.
And and it's nice for next year, and it'll be great to have that
All of it.
archived at
Yeah.
the site, you know?
Well, it definitely helps too, because like I said, when Ed submitted his music, I'm like, hey, I asked for additional info because when we do these reaction episodes, it's like, okay, here's this band. Don't know anything about them.
Right.
I want to tell people about your band if we're listening to it. If you
Yeah.
submitted it, let's hear about it. So that helps for them because he's just like, oh, here, Chantal wrote this about
Yeah.
us. So
Oh,
I was
perfect.
like, okay, perfect.
That's cool.
yeah.
I'm so glad that it's handy. I enjoy writing them too. I
Same.
love writing about
I-
music.
This has opened up a little bit of a window for me to write more. Thank you, Jay. Like we do the bios and stuff, and I type things up. But now I'm typing up album reviews for every album that I like for 2023. So when that episode drops, I'm gonna roll out like 10 reviews of 10 albums.
Yeah.
Just like,
That's great.
you know, and then so writing for sure. Keep doing that because there's something to be said for the written word and people bringing back reading and still reading. Like, it's important. I don't read books as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
I mean, I have them just sitting on the nightstand, but I'll just scroll through blogs like you're saying, like, and especially if it's a friend's writing of some sort, like,
Yep.
oh, what's this big, you know, huge journal that they've, you know, entered today in Facebook or their own personal blog. Like, I like reading those things. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
you know, I mean, keep doing that as I'm going to try to as well.
Yeah, it's great from an educational perspective, but also for anybody listening that's trying to promote. I mean, we're talking about networking. There is no better way to effortlessly promote than to appeal to someone's, you know, sense of self and their own ego in the very best way. I mean, if someone writes something about you, you're going to share it.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely a great promotional tool, which you guys
Mhm.
harness the power of that all the time with your podcast, which is
Love
great.
to.
And that's, you know, a good way to go. So our hopes is that, you know, we'll reach all the networks of everybody that we write about as well when they share it, as everybody has. And yeah, it's great to read a little something that's not too heavy either.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't like really granular music reviews because I am an audiophile, a nerd, all those things.
Right.
But I like accessible music reviews, you know, where it's really a personal reaction. I love that
Yeah.
about what you guys do
Sure.
because you do allow yourselves to obviously be very open and raw and in the moment and organic with your reactions and stuff, which is great.
I try to describe the music that I'm hearing first as a fan, like without using any kind of musical technical terms. Like, we'll just talk about the emotion of it, or use just descriptive terms like all that, But then we'll get into whether or not it's melodic or time signatures, or what the drums are doing, and that's to kind of give
production.
And that's to kind of give non-musicians a little bit of an idea of what goes on in our heads, but also for the musicians to say, so that we are hopefully making sense to them too. Like, are we repping your band well? Do we know what we're talking about? Like, we know when we're speaking to your band, like we want to make sure that we're talking to their fans and other musicians at the same time. So
I think with the blog thing, it's cool too, because there's so many different mediums where it's like maybe you can't always just make a video. Like, people may want to watch videos, but videos aren't always appropriate either. If you just got a few seconds to read something, you can't necessarily just watch the video. So like, you got to have a little bit of something for everybody. So we can't ever forget that the lengthy blog post or the lengthy Facebook post or whatever, like that still has impact too, because people some people would rather read, and some people are stronger at writing than maybe they would be on camera.
Right.
You know, so it's like we can't ever, bypass that medium as well.
It's for the creator and the consumer.
Exactly.
Important.
So, because, you always hear like video, this, that, and the other thing, but not everybody's good at it. And it takes a while to get good at it.
Yeah.
Trying to turn
and
on
I watch video to
and,
like gain an essence of someone and trust them and enjoy them as like a vibe. But like, if I want to like learn about a band, I do like to read, because that's how my brain will store information. I'll be like, yes, okay, that band is from St. Louis. Oh, who else is from St. Louis? Oh, remember that band Live by Mistake? And I start like going down my little rabbit hole, and I have to see things in print to like, if I'm trying to be dorky with my, music knowledge consumption.
Right.
So I feel that.
It's not always a good time for a video either, Whether you're laying in bed late at night, or maybe you're, you shouldn't be in the stall, but in the stall with your phone.
or at work, in between doing whatever, and you're like, I probably shouldn't watch this video, but I can read this.
Maybe I get some quick stats about this black metal band.
I do want to listen to these guys.
For black metal trivia night at my house on Saturday.
You can't even, you have to hide your phone under the table with my husband, because he's got one of those damn encyclopedia brains.
Oh,
like
nice.
Once in a while, I will pull some stuff out. Like, I've been on a real, are either one of you familiar with the band Shrine?
No.
They're like LA band 95. So cool. Kind of like post-hardcore, lots of metal vibes. Their singer Zan woman, amazing voice, really driving, riffy. Just definitely something that like pumps me up lately.
Right,
and maybe when you hear it, you might even hear that inspiration, because it was an influential band for me. But like, I can't remember, or I can't believe that I remembered like her name in a conversation with Ben like years later, because I usually forget stuff like that, because I'm very like ADD legitimately.
Right.
But I know what I know in my brain. It's in there.
Sure.
It's just hard for me to access it. But he is like a computer.
Right.
Like, he will know all the things all the time.
Right. He'll just access it immediately out of the archives. Sure.
I am blown away by people that can do that. I cannot.
I used to be really good at that, better at that, maybe as I was younger. Maybe I just had a mind for studying that, like lyrics, band members, production, whoever the producer was, record labels, all of that. But anymore nowadays, I just don't make that kind of time and space in my brain. I'm just kind of like, that album by that band is fucking awesome, period, end of. And I don't really, like, I try not to know band members. I'm not going to know all the song titles like I used to. Older albums, I can tell you the order, the track list, start to finish. Anymore, and there's so many bands now.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm just not going to know all that stuff. But
and the older scene was more gatekeepy with that too. Like, the whole thing, like, especially for women, which, you guys never contributed to. I never felt that from you. You're always very respectful and supportive. But it was always like that, you're wearing a t-shirt, name 2 songs. And I hate that, because my brain also, like, on the spot will like short circuit, and I'll be like, I don't remember the songs, but give me a guitar. I can play both of them. You know, like, I know the riffs of this, and so not everybody is great with like, regurgitating that information either. But depending on the amount of time that you have, like you said, and where you're at in your life, I'm glad that the scene is like more open to allowing people to experience, and that you give space for first time listeners that don't have a breadth of musical knowledge.
Sure. And I don't see any reason in challenging somebody to what their t-shirt says, and like, or how many songs they know by that band. I just don't understand the point of it. I see a badass shirt, and I'm like, that's a badass shirt, like that's end of, like, that's all there is to it.
I want to say 2 things on that. One, kudos to you for buying that shirt and and supporting that band, you should be getting kudos for that. Like
Right.
you should be held on a pedestal for actually spending the
merch.
money and supporting that band, whether you know 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah.
2, people don't listen to music like they used to. Like Nick was saying, like we would sit there and read the lyrics and we'd look through every song. We'd know everything about. But music there's just so much of it anymore. If I like a band and it's cool, I'm not going to know every one of their song titles just because I don't sit there and have the time to read all their lyrics and remember all their song titles. I might like 6 albums out of the 12 that they have.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to remember all that?
Right.
Fuck
It's
that.
a
I don't care.
relationship.
That's
It's just like
stupid. Yeah.
dating. You know, you're on a particular level. I've listened to one of your songs. I like it. I like your vibe. I like your t-shirt design.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw you live. Oh, I talked to you in person. You know, it keeps layering itself.
Yeah.
It's okay to have like relationships and your taste in music develop organically like that instead of trying to push so hard.
Like-
There was a performative aspect to it back in the day. Like I felt that pressure too, even though I
Sure.
know we all love this. You know, we all love music. We love the scene. We love learning about
Yeah,
it.
we love talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was a little, I think there's been a little bit more pressure in the past in that it feels like a different, you know, sociological time right
Sure.
now in
Yes.
history.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly does for me, and looking around and seeing like more women on
Yep.
guitar and stuff. It's still
Yeah.
not as many heavy
No.
rolls as what I would like for guitar, but I mean, we're out there more. You know, back in
No,
the day, it was rare.
Jay and I are huge advocates of, the girls can do it too in all capacities, in all instruments, not just the vocals. You see more front women nowadays.
Yeah.
But I think on all instruments too, they're
Yeah.
perfectly capable of doing the same,
Yeah.
as good or better than any other male.
Yeah.
So
well,
I think,
we had talked about doing like a
By the way, am I the first woman ever on this
Yes.
podcast?
actually,
Yeah.
yes.
I just had to
Welcome.
ask.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I hope there will be
Yeah.
more, but
Yeah,
yeah.
us
Probably
too,
the
for
most
sure.
appropriate though.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
with our history,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
only
like I
only
said.
fair.
I'm
and,
honored.
You know
I'm
what,
honored.
what we're trying to do here for sure.
I didn't mean to
but-
interrupt your point.
No,
though.
no. Nick and I, we had talked, because we go over, we have interviews, we do topic episodes where we kind of talk about, whatever topic or like the music reviews. That's like a topic episode. Then we'll like write up bios of bands and we'll tell the stories of bands, right? Like, so we did like Slayer, Death, like our favorite bands. We'll like study them and like, because I think that's what sets our podcast apart. Even though the interviews seem to get a little more traction, it's still fun for us to like study these bands and tell the stories. So if somebody's interested in that band, they can learn the band from front to back.
get those
That's kind of
references.
something different for us and a different format for the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, one of the topics we talked about, because there are so many awesome female fronted bands, but we're in the school of saying like, it's all kind of the same to us. Like, not to get too woke with it because that's not how I play the game.
Right.
But like he said, the girls can play too. But we want to do a female fronted episode of like some of the best female fronted bands that we really like. But we didn't want to get into that whole dichotomy of like, they're
Separating
only
them.
singling out the females, which
Right.
like, so we're trying to figure out how we can approach that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's just so many badass bands that are fronted by females, like you said, and like
The metal
like,
community needs a better balance, right? I
Yeah.
think, it's like 70-30 sometimes it feels like in the room. You
Yeah.
want to get that to be a more normalized room
Yeah.
full of people,
Yeah.
like a 50-50.
But
And I think showcasing that the women can do it too helps. Like it,
Yeah.
like it brings in potential musicians, maybe the minors that want to see like, oh, I can shred too. Hell yeah, girl, go for it. Pick it up now. Like, no doubt you can do it. Like, look there's the proof right there happening.
100%.
Right.
As a woman musician, I'll just say that I don't think that will come across as pandery to us.
Okay,
We appreciate it because we need representation.
sure.
And I think it's awesome that you guys are considering doing that. I know both of you personally. I know what you've always stood for in
Right.
terms of diversity in music. So I can attest to that. And I know that if you did an
Well,
episode, you would do it justice
Thank you.
and that it would be a great thing. And I understand, you don't want to be pigeonholed, especially by, I mean, seriously, like, other like patriarchal musicians and people out there
Right.
that aren't as caught up yet.
Yeah.
They are the first to be like, oh, you're pandering or oh, you're
Yeah.
a simp or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah, or, they're good for
That's
a girl,
nice.
and it's
Yeah.
nope. I'm
Yeah.
just letting you know that this girl is so badass. She's better than
Right.
many of the boys,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
need to know that right
and you
now.
will get a lot of like, and I'm positive that Jay saw this happen, but the more threatened that somebody did feel like that, like I definitely had some things happen
Mhm.
when we were playing. And then we would get done, and I'm not saying like, I'm so amazing, but I always brought my A game and was throwing down and doing my thing. And there was a lot of like, oh man, Jeff, she threw down harder than you meant, that kind of thing. But a
Right.
lot of times those guys would be the ones that would come back and would be kind of a dick later
Mm.
because something inside them got
Yeah,
stirred
they
up.
got a
and then
little,
you know, they
and
and
that
so
they had to live with that. That's the
they would
problem.
push back on
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think it would be amazing if you guys did that and highlighted women musicians. I mean,
Yeah.
that would roll.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about the judgment because I do what I want because it feels
Right.
good. But at the same time, it's more like we want to do it justice
Of
because
course.
we
Yeah.
fucking enjoy these bands
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
like these
100.
female singers
Yeah.
and it's not
Absolutely.
just to do it, but we
Right.
just think it's important to highlight these girls that are doing it just as well as the guys can do it. Like
Yeah.
Nick said, like
Is it
that's
like
important to me.
A
you know?
metal band specifically that you guys are
Well, I
thinking
mean,
about, like
Dying
some-
Wish. Do you know who those guys are?
Oh man, that sounds
I
really
think you would
familiar.
like them. Vexed is a cool one.
Vex is fronted.
Year of the Knife. I mean, there's just all
Crypta.
these band Crypta. They're
Oh,
all
God.
females and they
Oh.
shred hard. So
I'm
Sure.
excited for this episode myself because a lot of the woman-fronted music that I listen to might be a little bit more in like noise rock, doom, and punk.
Okay.
Mhm.
Versus metal. So I will look forward to
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
because that'll be an educating episode
Yeah,
for me, and
there's-
I love shredding. So
Yeah, I mean, all of these bands that we talk about because we're putting lists together all the time for different things or whatever, and like these bands come up, and some of my favorite bands were some of those bands that this whole last year were bands that I listened to repeatedly, and they're all female fronted. So like that goes to show of like maybe 5 to 7 to 10 years ago what I was listening to, there wasn't many women in there, but
Right.
also metal's always kind of been that weird manly Neanderthal like. Like, and now I think
Yeah.
I think with all of the spread of diversity within the music and genre blending,
Yeah.
I think that opens it up a lot because, maybe because you go to a metal show, even back in the day, there isn't going to be that many girls there because it's a fucking metal show. Girls didn't really like it. But nowadays, there's so many people, so many bands, so many genres.
Yeah.
I think that opens up a lot of windows for males and females to enjoy what they enjoy, whether it's metal or not metal.
It's a long time coming, and it's something that I think a lot of musicians have worked hard to do is to make music that brought in more people, diversify their sound, so they're not exclusively just like pigeonholing their own art into a genre, like saying
Yeah.
I'm only going to be a thrash metal band. How about, better yet, let's do a lot of thrashy elements because like I like thrash metal, but let's
Amen.
let's just space it out so that we can bring in a bigger audience. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not selling out. It's just saying I like other music too, so why not make other music
Yeah.
too?
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that really lends itself to bringing in more people who maybe don't go for the grind or blast beats as much, but you're not going to lay it down on them for 60 straight minutes. And there's other instrumentation. And once you start branching out a little bit, you can reel people into the heaviness the right way.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like you need your little gateway drugs. Honestly, like you guys are saying, the representation matters. I volunteer annually, and I've done this for a decade for an organization called Girls Rock,
Awesome.
and it's basically a 2-week camp in Christmas in the summertime. Not during Christmas, that would be bonkers.
The absolute opposite of Christmas,
And
actually, the
I'm like,
summertime.
and I said 2 weeks. I'm like, is it 2 or 1? But I'm always there every year. I've been instructor some years. I'm always a photographer, and I'll come and
Nice.
document and do certain things. But basically, it's a camp for women and girls and non-binary youth or transitioning youth that can, go and play instruments and be exposed to that culture for the first time. And there are so many amazing women musicians that do
Yes.
this. And it was like, I remember the first couple years I started volunteering, coming in and like being around other women like myself and us teaching these young women and youth. And it was so emotional and healing for me. And not only did I meet some of the most incredible women that I've ever known that are still like my besties and just goddesses, but I remember the first time I went downstairs into the drum workshop, because you're talking about exclusivity. I mean, women drummers are the rarest of the rare.
Okay, it sounds about right.
personally,
yeah.
I
yeah, no,
feel.
I think you are right.
And there's like 6 very diverse young girls on like drums playing together in unison, learning.
Nice.
And I legitimately, like, I was photographing, but I'm glad I had a camera in front of my face because I was completely streaming tears.
Yeah.
I mean, it like literally chokes me up to talk about it right
Yeah.
now.
I love it.
I full on just was like moved to tears because I was like, holy shit, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see something like this. So they're on their way to, like, it is constantly changing. And it is a different scene now. I love that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Jay and I, one of the biggest things we stand for here is like not gatekeeping. And I think that's going to extend itself to not just musical genres, but to people in walks of life.
Yeah,
and I think that's
sure.
really huge for me. I think if I'm being honest and objective about why I even like metal, I think it goes to like almost childhood and feeling a little bit ostracized or moving around a lot from school to school. And you get that little bit of frustration. That music just pulls you right in. The first time you hear like Metallica or Megadeth as a, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, Anthrax, like I'm immediately pulled into that. And then that just never left. So metal kind of pulls in people similar to Kitchens, but I won't go there. It just pulls people in who kind of are maybe damaged or need an outlet. And it's supposed to be like we welcome people. We are kind of like a tribe of outcasts, and we're supposed to, in my opinion, like be welcoming of all different walks of life. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm marginalized or anything, but I felt like I was maybe on my own in ways, and I just needed a family outside of my family to go to. And the metal community has been that for me, and I could see where there's a lot of negative stereotypes in metal and tropes and stuff like that. And I defy them. I'll die on that hill. Like, you cannot pigeonhole us or use a broad brushstroke just because we listen to extreme music. Like we're just the same as anybody else, getting up, getting their kids to school, going to work.
There's a lot of love in that community too. Like, I know what you're talking about.
There's a lot of art going on here that people just want to ignore and gloss over or have opinions of without even being introspective about it or trying it out. So metal is a community for me. It's a walk of life. Something that I almost wanted to outrun that metalhead label because it was just kind of weighing on me and people were misrepresenting me, I thought. But now I just embrace it. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm a metalhead. I've been listening to metal for so long. It would be a lie to myself and others to say that I'm not a metalhead.
Yeah.
Right.
It's part of your identity at this point.
And ugliness exists in every community too.
Exactly.
The metal community has still been one of the most open, come as you are lifestyles / philosophies, and where it meets up with punk, where it was like, oh, you need to get some aggression out? Oh, you got something to say? Here's a microphone, a guitar. By the way, have you ever heard Among the Living? Well, come on in. Sit down.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that was my youth too.
I think that runs parallels, though. So all metal, punk, hardcore, it's kind of all lumped in the same thing. Anything that's kind of out of the norm, extreme, more than just rock and roll.
And I just welcomed a new metalhead into the fold. I took him to see Ulcerate in Detroit. Kid's 19. I thought maybe he'd have his own, music picked out for his life, but he was open to it. I thought maybe he was already a closed book on what he liked, but he came out, he watched the mosh pits, right? And he was like kind of nervous about it. He's young and he's like, what is that? You have to go back in time to when the first time you're seeing something, right? So he's seeing this, and I say to him, just whatever, watch it. But he said he ultimately wanted to jump in the pit. I said, go for it, just don't hurt yourself. The reason he did is because he saw everybody that fell down get immediately scooped back up. He saw the brotherhood live in action, and that all that fear and trepidation just subsided, and he just jumped right in the pit. And he was gone. He was gone for the rest of the night. I turn around over my shoulder. I see this guy just halfway up in the air, just like gliding along.
Dude, isn't it the weirdest culmination of violence and safety that you've ever seen?
Yeah.
I literally just thought about this at the credit union. I did get body slammed into the wall to some conduit when Malorganot was playing, because I was like up in the front, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm 44 and I have a neck issue. Oh my God. But even this small little teeny tiny pit, there was, it was funny because like 2 or 3 songs in, Malorganot was like, Muskegon, you're animals. You're filthy animals. But there's this little pit churning, and I was even thinking about that exact same thing, looking at that on a small scale, how you get picked up. I remember some big dude like chucking me at a Guttermouth show in Detroit, like 15 feet in the air, because he was like, "You're gonna die in here, bye." And I was like, "Thank you," and then sailing away. But it is like I'll take care of you culture. I'll pick you up when you fall down, like 100%.
Well, with that being said, is there anything else that you want to touch on? You think we got everything out of the way
for
today?
Having such a great conversation and allowing it to unfold. Hopefully I didn't take too much time over.
I don't think he's on no time limit today, and I'm really not. I just wanted to make sure we got everything out there and do our due diligence to the scene and metal itself, because that's what we're here to do.
Yeah,
So
you guys are doing a great job. I'm really looking forward to seeing this episode, giving these tickets away, and seeing some familiar faces at the fest.
Yeah.
looking
So
forward
is there
to this.
anything else that you want to touch on, Nick?
I'm just looking forward to this fest and watching this scene come back to life and being a part of it. I mean, thank you, Chantal, for what you're doing. Thank you to all the musicians involved in this and everybody else who's not a musician that's got a hand in it. Like, your help.
Supporting.
Yep, your help is needed. And for everybody that's coming out, we don't want to drill the point too hard. Take care of the venue. Have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
Thank
Be
you
cool. Don't
for
be a
that.
dick.
Please
Yes.
just take care of the venue, please, because we want to do it again.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Looking forward to the next time that you come through with the new EP, and we'll
Yes.
give that a good
So
listen,
pumped.
and then we'll talk about the band a lot more on that episode.
For
But
sure.
with that being said, much love to you guys. Keep it metal. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out the episode. Be sure to hit that like button and give us a share.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed our podcast today, please give it a rating on your streaming service to help us gain some exposure.
And if you really enjoyed the show, please give us a follow or hit that subscribe button and come hang out with us every week. And remember, keep it metal.